Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Mondays, where we believe, apart from your family, your house and your mortgage are probably your largest investments, so it doesn't hurt to know just a little bit more. I'm your host, Mason Kealy, and today we're talking about long-term planning and how that really falls in with mortgages. Well, I'll tell you, one of the biggest impacts I see is in the young people these days. They're getting out there, they're wanting to buy their first home, and they're finding out, we can't do it. Everything's so expensive, especially out west in like British Columbia. So they end up turning to their parents or their family saying, hey, can you give me some help to get me this first home? On their side, sure, they've been working their whole lives. They've built up a portfolio, but are they just going to dig in there, pull out a chunk of money to help you out? Do they have a plan? Do they know how helping you with that first mortgage is going to impact them long term? And that's one of the things that I think is very important. And today we have Dorothy Powell coming on, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about that long-term planning. And, if you're going to be helping your kids, or you see that as something that's going to be coming up, scheduling that and putting that as part of your long-term plan to make sure it doesn't mess up down the road when you plan on taking more money out for income. So without further ado, let's get Dorothy to come on and we'll chat with her. Hey, Dorothy, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Mason. My pleasure.
So I was mentioning to the viewers, basically what we were talking about was how important long-term planning is to clients with their portfolios. If all of a sudden, say like their kids want to get their first mortgage and they're having problems doing that, which is something that I'm seeing more and more these days. How's that going to impact things if the parents want to come on and kind of help out, which most of them do?
Well, that's a very good point, Mason. And what's most important is if families can actually come together well ahead of when this might come up. If they can sit down together as a family unit and have these discussions so that they at least have in mind that they want to help their children and their children are aware of that, then perhaps they can work together to put together a plan. So it's helping one another out. So the parents, for example, setting aside a certain amount to help those children with, and then that encourages the children to have their savings maybe to match what the parents can help with. That way, there's cooperation built in.
Now I've heard this statistic before somewhere. It's something like less than 10% of people actually have a financial plan. Like it's not something that the regular person does, right? Is that because it's expensive or?
In fact, it's not expensive. I think the major drawback is people find it difficult to open up and actually talk about their finances. That's one of the most difficult things for people to do. And so first of all, it's important for them to trust the advisor that they're speaking to. For example, with the banks and with RBC, there is no charge for talking to a financial planner such as myself. And yet people find that difficult because often finances are kind of hidden in the closet and they're not even discussed in the family. So then how can you expect them to share all of that with a stranger?
Yeah, no, I actually run into a lot of that, like when people come to me and we're doing refinances, when the refinances come up and I give the opportunity to say, this is the perfect time to take all that outside debt and consolidate it and get it into a lower rate under your mortgage. People are a little timid, with that, right? Because I think debt is just naturally kind of embarrassing, if it's built up. But I don't think people should be embarrassed about about investments, right? If they've got any, that's good, right?
Oh, absolutely. I feel though that within our social networks, sometimes people feel, oh, I haven't done enough. I'm way behind my neighbors, for example, who have the fancy vehicles in the driveways, or own a large home, maybe they feel less important, or that they haven't done enough themselves. And so they hold back from explaining their own situation.
So it's kind of psychological almost. They just don't want to show that to their kids right away.
Absolutely. It is totally psychological. So I always try to encourage everyone, say, hey, there's a plan for everyone. And my whole motto is do the best you can with what you have today.
I found actually when I was in wealth management, one of the hardest things that we had to deal with was getting the seniors that may have, like, especially in BC, the property values are so expensive here, and you could have someone in their, you know, in their 70s or 80s that owns a really expensive house and they're all by themselves. And you try and give them advice saying, hey, you know, why don't you sell, buy a condo, you know, move closer to your kids, or distribute some inheritance early while you can still see it. And almost all the time, I guarantee that, like, the thing that came back to me all the time was they'd say, oh, well, the kids can have the house once I'm gone, you know, right? And I mean, people are living so long now, you know, you have to tell the clients, well, you know, by the time you're gone, your kids could be in their 70s. They're not going to need that money anymore, right? Help them out now. But that's important, because if those people got some, like, if they sat down and got some really good long-term planning,
Yes.
they may realize that, especially if they're sitting with their kids. You know, like, I could imagine if like, you know, one of the kids said, hey, mom, you know, by the time I'm 70, I'm not going to need it, right? Then it might make mom think differently.
Yes. Yes, I think there's that perception, just as you say, that the older people, they, of course, they work very hard. They've saved, they haven't squandered any of their funds, and they've paid for their home, and they're sitting with that. They do want the best for their children, but they're sort of, they hold back. They are afraid to let go of the reins, so to speak. And for their children, yes. By the time the parents are passed away, then often the children are already in retirement, their kids have gone, and it's a little too late to fully make use of those funds that they inherit.
So on the flip side of that, so in this scenario we were talking about, where the parents are like, oh, you know, of course we'll help Jimmy get his first home, you know, right? We'll do whatever we can. Do you feel people jump into it without doing any planning, and then maybe like 10 years down the road, they're like, oh, you know, I wasn't prepared for this, right? Because they might not have enough money to take funds out for themselves.
That's very true. That's where a good long-term plan is essential, because that's one of the things we take most seriously is income planning for retirement. And as you said, people are living longer. We have to have a plan that's going to cover their needs from where they are today, right up until they do pass. And where we used to plan to age 90, well, I have many, many clients who are now approaching 100. And at least 90 to 95, I have many clients in that category now. So,
well, if you think about that, if you're retiring at 65, right? If the most people retire at 65, I have 4 kids. I'll probably keep working forever, but most people retire at 65. That's another 30 years that you've got to live on your savings, right?
That's right. And I think a lot of people just don't even, they're not aware of that. They're not, their perception is, oh, well, I'm retired, it's going to be short. No, there's still term planning to be made.
So Dorothy, then, so if somebody, say somebody's watching this and they know that they're going to end up having to help their kids, or they think they might not have a good plan in place or any plan in place at all, how do they get a hold of someone like you?
Well, Jason, good question. I'm at RBC. I'm an investment and retirement planner. Will you be showing my contact details?
I definitely will. Yeah, and they
Right.
could get it through me, but if they were like walking off the street, like into a branch, just asking,
Yeah.
you're not in the branches all the time because you take care of a region, right?
Yes, and I am in the Ashford region, but I also can see clients in Chilliwack, in Mission, sometimes in Langley. So my position is mobile, but the beauty now, particularly with COVID, if there is such a thing as beauty with COVID, a lot of us are able to work. We can have meetings just like this virtually. We can actually complete most transactions virtually now through our online program. But if it does actually require face-to-face meeting, that can be arranged.
Excellent. Well, Dorothy, what I'm going to do, I will put your card information up there, and if anyone's looking for extra planning, I will definitely send them your way and put you guys in touch.
That sounds fantastic, Mason.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it, and keep helping people plan.
Very good, Mason.